not prune, basically. I'm not going to go so much into fruit trees. It'll get bogged down into fruit trees. This is much more global than that. We're going over also evergreens, hedgerows, perennials, annuals, the whole thing. This is a catch-all. And we're going to go in 60 minutes or less. This is a lot of information. Your brains will be smoking by the time you get done. But I think I can simplify this down to where you can tackle even the most outrageous. I mean, some of you just bought that house. It's 20 years old and it has not been pruned in 20 years. It's overtaking the house. So I do some real estate investing as well. The first thing I do when I buy a new house, I rip out the landscape because it's been overgrown. It blocks the structure. The landscape is not meant to block or screen off your house. It's meant to accentuate and frame and show off your house. It's all about your house, not about, or the gardens or the secret garden piece. It's not about hiding everything from, unless you've got that house that comes in from a major street where the headlights are always hitting your main bedroom window, then we might try to strategically screen. But the biggest mistake I find people make, they come in and buy that cute deodar cedar, so pretty, for a Christmas tree. They go out and plant it afterwards in January, which is great. It's a family tradition. 10 years later, the thing is 30 feet tall and 20 feet wide, and you can't see anything in the front yard. It was planted in the wrong place. Those big structures, those big plants, they're meant for out in the corners. Out in the Arizona cypress hedgerow is not meant really to be in between the two houses as a border. It's 20 by 12, 15 foot wide. You've got a small lot. It can take over the entire yard between your houses. You can't even get to the back sometimes. Sometimes, and I'm giving you permission right now up front, it's okay to kill a living thing. Some of your plants, they need to go. They just are in the wrong place, the wrong time, or they're seasonal. I think of plants, now I own a garden center, so I've got a love affair with plants, but I don't love, it's not like it's a little puppy dog. I love my chainsaw as much as I love a good tree. And so sometimes it's just for a season, it's just for a time, and then it's done its purpose for 10 or 15 years, and now it's time to thin that out. I mean, we live in America. For 20 bucks, you can have a brand new shrub that blooms and it has vigor and that kind of stuff. So the reason that we're pruning is, one, to keep it under control. But really, if you plant the right thing in the right place, there shouldn't be a lot of pruning needed. There should be some trimming and shaping, and maybe some pruning the first few years, but as it gets going, you should be able to pull back on that and not be a slave to pruning all these plants. If it's the wrong plant, let's say the number one culprit, number two, there's two. Red tip photinia, gosh, I love that plant. I'm putting my kids from college on that plant. I sell hundreds and hundreds of them, but I wouldn't have one myself. It's too aggressive, too big, it's a 12 by 12 foot monster. I mean, children's dogs been lost in red tip photinia. They just get too big, and then people plant them right next as a foundation planting. Ooh, that is, you are ready for a headache when that happens. And if you go on vacation, you come back, your house will be lost. Really, that plant belongs out on the edges of the property because it's just too big and aggressive. But they're also inexpensive and they grow fast. So you can get a lot of plant for less money because we don't have to keep them at the farm that long. They just grow really fast. You put $19.99, 30 bucks on them for a really nice one, and people they just eat them up. But I wouldn't plant one myself. I think some of those need to be, and they're just disease-ridden. If you don't prune them correctly, they get mildew. There's just some stuff that happens with them. So the other culprit is pampas grass. Oh, they were pretty, weren't they? Until this last storm, until last week. You had the plumes up there. They were standing head tall. They were glorious. Now, they're just this big tumbled mess because the snow kind of got them all lay down. And now it's time to cut those back. You do need to cut those back. But they're just aggressive. They're big. They're usually planted in the wrong place many times. They are majestic when put in the right place. But you better make sure you got your they're kind of like roses. You better make sure you got big, heavy leather gloves on because they'll cut you. They're hard to cut back. And so, but kind of watch them. Watch where you put it, or you'll be a slave to your landscape. The first thing to start with landscaping. And I would say now is the time. Things that are a year old or older, and they still have their original stakes on them, mainly trees. We're talking about trees. The first thing to do, pull those stakes off. The plant, I see stakes left on the trees way, way too long. We are a windy climate. Plants, the way that they work their muscles or become strong, I mean, basically, if you put your arm in a cast for 3 years, how strong is your muscles going to be when you take that cast off? You have no muscle tissue. Same exact thing with trees. So you need to take those stakes off so that they can flex and move in the wind without breaking or snapping. This is especially important for your soft, fast-wood growers. Things like robinias, purple robe locust, your cottonwoods, willows. These are really important to get off those stakes. Now, if you're not sure if it's strong enough to hold itself up in a strong windstorm, March is windy in the mountains. If you're not quite sure, what I tell folks is snip the whatever's binding or holding that stake up, the tree to the stake, just cut those off. Leave the stakes in the ground until it gets leafed and you see that first windstorm. If you see that it's laying over all of a sudden, you go, okay, I need to put it back on the stakes. The difficult part of staking a tree is getting the stakes in the ground, especially in the mountains. So you could easily tie it back up in March as we start to really get into spring. But probably what you'll find is you can snap those stakes off and it'll go fine with itself. Get it off the stakes as soon as you can. Don't leave that thing staked up too long. The biggest mistake would be the trunk. You got a tree here. The biggest mistake I find, they put that stake like this. This is a shipping stake. Most of the trees come on with stakes just to get them from the farm to here without breaking and maiming or scratching or damaging the tree. Now here at Waters Garden Center, it's painstaking, but we take all those stakes off when they come in at the back dock. Mainly so that you won't use this and keep it when it's planted, because it's not going to help the tree. It's going to make for a very weak tree. So we pull these off, but if you bought a tree and it's still there and it's up against the trunk, anyway, pull this one off especially. There I might, if it's been kept on there for let's say a year or two, I might pull that off and put another stake on either side for a season, just until it gets strength to it. Plants need to move. They want to move, but not just bend over in the snow. I would say that's especially important for evergreens, your spruce, pine, cedars. If they were staked originally, the only reason we kept them staked was so when a heavy snow comes, it doesn't fall over in this heavy snow. Those plants can for sure be taken off those stakes, no problem. It's your bigger trees, your sycamores, cottonwoods, willows, those great big growers. Those are the ones you're not quite sure, because they put on such a large leaf mass when they're leafed out that they're like a big parachute. And they catch that wind in let's say April. It gets pretty windy, prevailing southwest wind always blows. There's when you might see it start to bend and grow in the wrong direction. You'll see a tree that grows to the northeast and it's just sitting there, no stake. That's a tree that wasn't staked. And so the wind got it blowing and just all of a sudden it solidified in this northeast pattern. You always tell them, if it's a fruit tree, it'll load up with fruit and just fall out of the ground. I've literally seen them leap out of the ground because they couldn't take the weight. Step number 2, get rid of anything that's dead or damaged. If it's got sun skull, that is the top of that branch is cracked and looks like the bark is flaking off, it looks damaged, that needs to come off. It's just a magnet for disease and bugs. It's going to be a problem for you. And it doesn't do anything but attract negative aura for the plant. You need to get rid of that stuff. Cut it out of there. If you don't know where to start, just start by cutting out the dead and damaged. That'll start to open up the structure of the plant, so you start to see. Sometimes it's so intermingled, you can't even see where to make the cut, where to even start. Start by, number 1, cutting out the dead and damaged branches, okay? Number 2, anything growing to the inside. We'll have a good example of this across the street, because these fruit trees were just solid mass of just branches every place. The leaf spot was terrible, mildew was terrible. And so now we've opened this up so you can actually see the air can flow through it. We're trying to get where the air can flow through and the sun can get down to the inside of the structure of that tree or shrub. Okay, so that's number 2. If you start doing these 2 steps right there, instantly you'll start to see the structure of the plant. Just get rid of that growing to the inside of the plant, just cut that off, and then anything dead and damaged, all of a sudden you'll start to see, open up that plant, you'll start to see where to prune next. Next thing is, people always ask, how far up should I prune things? It all depends. There's no right or wrong with this. For me, I'm 6'2". All of my trees are pruned up to 6'3", because I do not want to go thing my head as I walk across the yard or raking underneath or weed whacking, whatever I'm doing, playing with the dogs, the kids. I don't want to be thinking about always having a duck underneath my trees. So as the trees grow, I start limbing them until I get up to this height. So everything in my yard is up there, including the natives. I think it's okay. This is going to be sacrilege to some of you purists, but our pinyon pines, our junipers, I've got this beautiful alligator juniper in the backyard. I mean, it's magnificent. It's the centerpiece of the entire backyard. I made the landscape around. It's beautiful. It's ancient. It's this big around. It's beautiful, but when I bought the house, it was solid round right to the ground. And you couldn't see it, just a big green blob, and it's a male, so it's one that has all the allergies. I mean, it's starting to turn yellow now with pollen. I mean, it's a problem. I have terrible allergies to junipers, but I'm surrounded by forests of junipers. Nothing I can do. I don't enjoy it. And so I've pruned up all the limbs until I can see the trunks. I can see the main crotches. I've taken out some smaller branches that got right to the ground, got rid of them. And so I've opened up the character of the tree. And now I can go back and landscape. And I've got art underneath it. I've got lighting at the bottom to show off the structure. I've got down lighting to show off the artwork underneath. I've got ground covers. It's beautiful now. Whereas before it was just a big green blob. Some of your natives are prettier if you simply put a chainsaw to them, shape them up, show them off. Okay? Can I show you my favorite pruning tool? I'll show you my 2 most favorite tools. This is a new line, and I don't get paid for this. Rovi. It's a 40-volt hedge trimmer. I don't know how many times you guys can relate. I used to have corded stuff. How many times have you cut through your cord? Dang, I gotta go get it. I always have an extra plug to put on there because I'm always cutting off my cord. This baby, man, now the negative with this, it's not as strong as my powered one, my 120 volt. I also have a corded one for the big jobs. But for light pruning, Russian sage, your autumn sages, your salvias, perennials, light vines. This is a great tool. It won't go through big woody stuff, so there I convert to my bigger stuff, but this is probably my favorite right here. And the batteries, this battery, you charge it up, it'll last, 2 of these will last any pruning job. They don't wear out. I've tried some of the 24 volts, some of the smaller stuff. Those are no good. I just kind of stopped all that. You need the higher voltage to get the power and the length on the battery. My personal opinion, totally. This is the greatest. Man, this baby. And the electric chainsaw, you ladies will love this. My wife loves using this. We sold hundreds of cut Christmas trees in December. It's kind of a Christmas forest, Santa's forest. It's fun. We sell as many cut trees as we do living trees. And this is what we use. This one tool we use to cut the ends off the bottom for a fresh cut so it can take up more water. This handled hundreds of cuts. And the blade was still sharp when we were done. Now we're careful with it because we got hundreds of trees to cut, but this is just so handy. And I don't want some big burly man. The ladies can do the work just as well as the guys do if I get them the right tools. It's lightweight, easy. They were struggling with the big gas one. And those are kind of a pain. You got to choke them. This one, you put the battery in and go. This will handle most things up to about maybe a 4 inch and lower, easy. Up to about a 6 inch in there. You start to push it. You need a bigger tool. So this is a great little tool. It uses the same exact battery as the other one. So I've got the blower, I got the whole line. This is just a great, Roby did a good thing for us with that. The other tool that I use mostly here at the Garden Center, a good set of pruners are going to make a huge difference. This is where the work really comes in. You get a bad set of pruners, and this job just bites. It's just it's awful. You can't get through it, and so you tend to start prying back and forth. You destroy your pruners. You get a good blade. This is a Felco pruner. Felcos are probably the best at keeping their edge, lightweight, easy to use. You're probably going to have to go online to buy these because they're rather expensive. This is probably an $80 pruner. They're so expensive and they're stolen. I've tried to sell them here, and the contractors love to. Anyway, I won't go into my woes. Anyway, you probably go online, look for these, but Felcos are a great pruners. The other ones that we do sell are Coronas downstairs. They're a solid steel. They're a little heavier, but it's a good hard steel that holds its blade. The main thing is, does it hold its Corona? Does have a good hard steel that holds its blade pretty well. It's just a little more cumbersome. It's important to size it, probably handle it. So they've got a man size, which is way too large even for me. And they've got a lady size, which I kind of prefer the Corona line. It's a little smaller to deal with. Just feel them, but that's another good set. Stay away from your $19.99 or lower kind of, I guess they're disposable. They just don't hold their blade. They just don't stay sharp, especially if you're putting back oak. So these heavy, hard woods, they just don't hold their blade. The other one is, sometimes we need to break out the loppers a little more often. You cannot take pruners. This is not only going to go into about maybe a ½ inch or less. So I know it says it can cut this much, but you're not strong, you're not Superman. You can't cut that, I can't do it. So maybe about ½ inch or so and smaller, I'll go hand prune. Once I get bigger than that, get the leverage on your side. Same thing. You need a good good tool that holds its blade, but the leverage helps you get it into things. Much better. Anyway, just school of hard knocks. I've destroyed several things where if you can't get through, you start to do this, and all of a sudden you put that leverage, it just takes those blades and goes, and I won't cut another thing after that. Really, my chainsaw, that's my number one. If it's bigger than this, for me, it's a chainsaw. I love my chainsaw. And for me, my wife, she grew up in the nursery. She thinks she knows everything about gardening. So I never prune while she's home. I always prune. I'm a gardener. It's hard to know when to stop. And so it helps me get further faster. You can grow your way out of any mistake with most plants. Simply fertilize afterwards. I think we need to err on the side of too small. We prune too much, then not quite enough. Because if you don't quite prune it back enough, we start getting more crossing, it just compounds itself down the road. When you're done pruning, when we're all done cleaning up, make sure that you're spraying things down with all-season oil. This is your least expensive, least offensive, most environmentally viable. It's a light grade oil. It's kind of like Pam, only you're spraying it on what's left of the landscape. This will take out and coat any insects that are wintering over on the plants. And there are bugs sitting there in hibernation waiting to come out the first nice day in March, and they're going to start sucking on, chewing on, taking down your plants. This kills those insects that winter over, and any eggs that were laid last summer and fall, it will coat those and clean those up as well. So at least we start clean for the year. They can always fly in and come back at you, and that's maintenance down the road, but at least we're starting out clean. This is especially important for roses, fruit trees, or anything that you may have had an issue with last year. If you had insects that were kind of crawling on things, make sure you spray those. Get the concentrate and a hose-in sprayer and just hose down. I mean, I'm really generous with this stuff. So usually a bottle will handle most of your yards. Unless you're really big properties, a lot of fruit trees or something. one bottle should do you. Yeah. What's that? Mugo pines? Yep. Evergreens, because your evergreens, the question was, do I spray Mugo pines? Yes. Your pines, we have a native aphid that loves the ponderosas, the pine trees that we have here. And they can really become bad. Last year they were horrible. This wipes out all the aphids and stuff and their eggs. Absolutely. Again, if in doubt, spray it down. That's my philosophy. I take the whole yard, I just hose it, I just, like fairy dust, sprinkle it out there. Just hose down everything. And it's as safe as you can be. Maybe use some common sense. Don't put it in the dog bowl, but it's pretty safe. Okay?
In this temperature, can you do it now?
You can do this at any temperature. In fact, oils are best used under the temperature of 80 degrees or lower. It needs to be dormant. Your grandparents called it dormant oil. So it was a real heavy grade oil. We've gone with a little lighter oil for us. The dormant oils tended to burn. Sometimes people would spray a little late in spring and get a little hot, and they would burn some of that new foliage. This particular spray I like because it's got more fudge factor. You can spray it when it's a little warmer and not make a mistake, but it's still organic. Okay? When you're all done, fertilize. Just fertilize everything. And this will probably be the month of March. You'll start hearing all of our stuff, the radio show, the garden column. It'll all be going fertilize, fertilize, fertilize. Everything needs to be fertilized. It'll be about a month out yet. But it'll take you a few weeks to kind of get everything cleaned up and pruned. But fertilize with this. This is a fertilizer I put together years ago. It's all natural. It's long lasting. And it really seems to bring out the color of the evergreens, the fruit trees. It helps those. The main ingredients: cottonseed meal and bird guano and fairy dust. I mean, it's got it's got sulfur and iron. It's got all the stuff you need for here. It's made for here, not for other parts. It's made for right here. And it really does work. Let's go over what to prune certain things. And we can do this across the street. Maybe it's easier here with the notepads already out. Between now and the middle of March, so you gotta, by the end of March, let's say by April, it's so full on spring, the sap is flowing, you really need to prune before that. So from the new year to about middle of March, the sap is still cold, it's not quite flowing. You can make a cut and the sap, it won't bleed out, especially for pines, maples. They're notorious for crying about their pruning. They just always throwing off sap. So if you prune in midwinter, not going to have that problem. So I would say most of your shade trees, most of your pine, spruce, cedar, your junipers, I prune between now and middle of March. Okay? Hedgerows, be careful of that one. Red tip photinias, arborvitae, boxwoods, some things that you shape and trim back a lot. I wait on those until I push it towards the end. I like to prune those in the month of March. This is personal preference. You can do it in January, no problem. But if it's a big plant that's real aggressive, it has this butchered look when you get done. So you can see all the woody ends. It just looks beat up. And I don't want my landscape to look beat up very long. I know they're going to start flushing new growth, probably the end of March, April. So I wait to prune right before then. So I'm waiting till the first part of March. Then I'll do that heavy cutting on, let's say red tip photini is probably the number one. I'll wait to cut back that. I'll fertilize them right afterwards. And just within a few weeks, I'll start flushing new growth. You'll have a little rough patch for a couple of weeks, but then it starts to flush new growth, gets that new, it looks fine. If you prune it back in March, it's going to look that way until spring hits, and all of a sudden, you'll start to flush and cover up. That's just my personal preference. You'll read all kinds of stuff on the internet. If you do a search how to prune, you'll hear all kinds of crazy stuff. For the mountains of Arizona, that's kind of probably a little better way to approach it. And then the biggest mistake I find newbies make, especially folks from California, maybe the desert areas, Scottsdale, Tucson, be careful of your spring bloomers. Don't prune yet. Lilacs, forsythia, camellias, quince, all the things that bloom first in spring. Those things, if you prune them back, it doesn't hurt them, but you lose all the flowers. They've been setting flowers since last summer. They've been setting the buds. They're about to bloom in the next month. I mean, here's a camellia right here. It's been blooming for 2 months already. If you start cutting this thing back, if you start shaping it, and it needs to be shaped, but you'll cut off all these flower buds. For spring bloomers, this is important, you want to take this down, this note down, prune spring bloomers after the last flowers dropped. So I know it'll be green, I know it feels like it's a little late, it's fine. Enjoy the flowers first, then prune them back. So, okay, the summer bloomers, don't worry about it. Rows of Sharons, your crepe myrtles, all your sage, salvias, the Russian sages, all those, prune those back now. They're not even interested in spring. They like summer. They're going to be growing and blooming in summer. Grapes, prune now, because people will start calling, going, I think it's dead, because it wakes up so late. It doesn't care for spring. It's waiting for warm weather. Crepe myrtles the same way. It waits. Desert willows, it waits until summer, until it's warm. It wants to be May. It'll be May before it even leaves out. You'll swear it's dead, but it's just waiting until it's just go ahead and prune it back now, shape it while you can see the structure. Once it starts getting leaves, it starts getting harder because you can't quite see where all the branches are. Okay, so wait on basically your spring bloomers. Just wait. It's the most important thing. Fruit trees, go ahead and prune them back. Figs to grapes to apples and pears, prune them all back. Let's cover it before we walk. Yeah, we'll cover it here. Just perennials. Those plants that come back every year from their original root structure, those plants you can prune back right now. And usually I'm a weed whacker, lawnmower guy. Butcher them, just cut them back. Ornamental grasses, fast, easy. It should not take you very much time. Just go for it. Big grasses like pampas grass, we'll have a good example of that. We'll show you how to do that. That one's too big. You can't take a lawnmower over it. Might take a riding mower. I know, probably that's a little too much. But most grasses, you can cut back pretty dramatically. It'll hurt you a little bit. But even mums, let's say mums right now, you'll cut those back and you'll start to see little green shoots starting to come up. Okay? So it's kind of time. Just as you get time, prune them back. I do wait myself on my roses. This is School of Hard Knocks, okay? I once pruned back, our family grew up in Skull Valley. Range country is at 4,200 feet. That's where the farm was. Okay? You'd think it'd be a little bit warmer. I thought so. I'm going to cut back my roses now. And then a cold front came and had my perfect form. 3 branches down to knee high. It was perfect. I had sprayed it with dormant oil. It was perfect. Ready, fertilized them, ready to come on with spring. They were starting to push off a little new growth. Then a cold front came and snapped those things back and killed back the canes back to the graft. I thought I had lost them. It took me a year to catch up and grow back. My roses, I keep the structure on those until the month of March. I want the hips on there, the old rose hips. That helps the plant can feed off of that. Get it through a harsh winter. The extra structure over top of that cane, or where the graft comes out, helps protect and insulate. So I wait. I let winter beat those up. We get another month or so of it can be brutal. It'll be nice today, and then it gets cold tomorrow. Kind of like last week. That'll last for another month, and then March comes, and it's pretty nice out. We might get some snow, but it melts instantly. But it's just nice out. It just feels better. The plants start taking off. You'll tell the daffodils will start to bloom. The jasmines and heaths. This little boy here. This guy just starts blooming like crazy. It's just March. Kind of spring happens here in the mountains in the month of March. So I wait till then, when I know that most of the cold is done, then I start pruning my roses. That's just School of Hard Knocks again. So while we're on Hard Knocks, can I show you my people think this is a grass. Oh, your poor landscapers, they're such idiots. I wish they were smarter, but they owned a pickup truck and a shovel, and they just started their own business. But they don't know how to prune this. It just drives me crazy. They cut this thing back and shape it like a grass. This is a yucca. It's evergreen, it's made to come back. If you prune this thing back and shape it like a grass, it will take years for this to come back. And they do whole subdivisions by cutting them and shaping them. And this thing should not be pruned. Cut back that long stalk. Remember, it has this one has a big red flower or yellow that floats above this foliage. You can cut that stem back, but don't cut the foliage. Oh, don't let your landscape maintenance guy do that to you. It's just, it's so painful when I see that happen. And then when you fertilize these, let's say like this is a century plant or agave. This is the one that puts that ginormous flower that grows like 12 feet tall. You can watch it grow when it blooms, it's fascinating. Be careful, you see how the structure, this thing brings all the water into its core, into the center part of this plant. That's why it's so drought hardy. But when you fertilize, make sure you don't get fertilizer on the petals, where it will bring all the fertilizer in to the inside of the core, and you'll burn the heart of this plant. I've seen that mistake. Just some quickie on the fly. I just don't want you to make those kind of mistakes like I've made, or have seen made. So watch that one. So anyway, same thing with these. These guys bring your yuccas. I'm real careful with my hand. I'll sprinkle it underneath, around the edges. That's how I fertilize these. They do need fertilizer. They will green up better and bloom stronger for you if you're fertilizing them with that all-purpose plant food. But I just make sure I don't have it sprinkled on top. Okay. What else we got up here? Here's a good example before we start walking. This is Oregon grape. It's a great native for here. You can see it's loaded with flowers. It's just this thing's within a few weeks, the next warm day, this thing will start to bloom. It's a February, March bloom. It's an evergreen. It's evergreen and purple. This is its winter color. Then it will green up to be this color here, that color. As soon as we get warm, it will start to change. But it needs to be shaped. This looks needs a haircut. This one I will wait until it blooms, enjoy the flowers, and then I will take the pruning shears to it and shape it after that. Enjoy the flowers first, then go ahead and prune it back. That's why I brought this one up. This one I brought up because you'll see right on the edges here, some winter burn, some winter damage. And it's very likely you'll see that in your yard. I'll wait until probably March to prune this hedge. This is a boxwood. I would say euonymus, junipers, all these hedgy, evergreeny, kind of broadleaf evergreen things. I would wait until March to prune that off so that I take all this old spent or damaged, winter damage, and then I'll shape it up, and then I'll fertilize it. It'll just flush new growth. You'll never know that it was ever pruned back and damaged. If I pruned it back now, like I really want to, we could get a cold snap in the next month. It'll cause more of that. And by the time you get done, you're left with this nub out in the landscape. So just kind of watch. If we're not done, it'll fool you. This is your first season here. And you know who you are. You're probably the ones in the shorts. You got a light vest on. You think this is such warm weather, and the locals are in parkas, and we're thinking it's really cold. You're just new from the Midwest. It fools you. It'll trick you into thinking spring is here. We don't gently start to go into spring like other parts of the country. We violently go into spring. It's nice, really nice, and it's blizzard conditions. Really nice, and we do this thing. So it'll give you a couple of false launches. I can tell you that our last frost date is May 8th. Mother's Day is what the locals use as the last frost date. So we're likely to have a cold snap. I mean, it'll be quick, but it can take out your tomatoes you're tempted to plant in the first part of April. It'll take those out because it felt warm, and it was for 2-3 weeks, and then all of a sudden that one last hurrah comes in. This will be important for fruit trees. If you plant the wrong fruit tree, and our spring tricks it into blooming too early, all of a sudden you'll find those desert varieties that are so prominent up here, they never form fruit because they're the wrong variety for up here. They grow, they do fine, but they never set fruit because they bloom too early. The last frost takes out the fruit, the blossoms, or the setting fruit. It's just kind some things to watch. Do your homework when you do that. Come and ask us. We'd love to help folks with gardening. Really, we do. So these trees are pretty old. They were really mangy looking. They were growing. This is an apple tree. The branches were coming down the ground. It was overgrowing itself. It was disease ridden. It was just an awful mess. I still am not done with it, but it was the initial, I just pruned it initially and tried to open it up. What I did, I just started out with cut all the dead and damaged, and then get anything that was growing down to the ground. I don't want to be ducking underneath. I want it low maintenance. I want to be able to see. I want to be able to see through it. And then I went to cut out the branches growing to the inside. I still have a couple of them, like this one right here. You can see it's growing to the inside. I'm sure I'll cut that one off and just take the chainsaw and whack it back. So it opens up the middle. It'll help the bug count. It reduces it. Bugs they like to be confined, protected from the sun, the wind. And so this plant, I predict, this had little small apples on it this last spring. I predict this tree is going to be gorgeous, big, heavy producing now if the spring is right. So here in the mountains, spring has a way of thinning. It takes some of the crops for us, but this apples are pretty consistent with plants. Hey, Vincent, come here. It's the kid. He loves kids. He just lives for kids and people. Yeah, question.
Grant, you pointed out it's going to the inside.
Yes.
The one right above it, would you call that going up or going to the inside?
I would probably cut both of them out of there because I've got enough structure here. This is enough to it that it looks good. And again, this can take a couple of years. They're small branches, so if you're not sure, you can cut it out later. Also, I think we're afraid. We think we can only prune in the winter. You can prune anytime you want. The book says prune 10% of the foliage mass anytime you want. That's a haircut or a main branch just coming into a walkway. Cut up to 10% of the foliage mass back anytime you want. In winter, it's best to prune up to the heavy pruning while it's still dormant. So there it says you can prune up to a third of all the foliage mass back in the winter, basically, in the late winter, early spring. That's when you do your major thick pruning. So if you're not quite sure, you can leave it there and then cut it out later, even though it's fully branched. Might even be setting some fruits and flowers. I think it's okay. That's my take on it. I haven't seen a difference in production or disease or any of that kind. It just may bleed out a little bit. So the sap is now flowing in the month of May. So you might have to take a pruning paint, that black tar, dabbing that on. You might have to put that on there to keep the insects out and keep the disease, just stuff out.
So that's good to use, is it?
It's good to use. God, there's different opinions on that. So pruning paint, my name's Ken. I'm your friend. Okay? I want you to succeed. Here's what I do. If it's midwinter, I don't use the paint. I just leave it because the sap is not flowing. And there's no bugs out, or very few insects out. So I don't feel the pressure. When I'm into the growing season, I will use it then. So I will take, and I use the little can with a paintbrush on the can. I use that one, a little easier, and I'll just dab that on there. I do use it on my roses. I do use pruning paint on my roses, especially if it's thicker than maybe a half an inch or larger, because there is a little wasp, it's called a cane borer. She will lay an egg on that cut, and the larva will start eating its way back to the graft. There I will dab that on because it keeps her from laying her egg on there. Just on my roses, basically. And there I'll prune it way back and just go, there's not a lot of pruning then, I just dab it on there and I move on.
Does the way you're pruning this apple tree?
Yeah.
I've got it's called a dwarf peach tree.
Yeah.
Okay, do I start pruning the branches that are pointed in and crossing and stuff?
Yes, you do the same technique.
I actually had a few peaches last year.
Yeah, so she's got dwarf, there's semi-dwarf, and there's standard. The techniques are the same on all of them.
It said it was a dwarf, but it's way up.
You have a semi-dwarf is what you have, not a genetic dwarf only gets this big.
Yeah. Oh no.
So if it's bigger than that, you have a semi-dwarf, which
Yeah, peach is
basically
bigger
ends
than
up being
that.
this big. Okay?
Yeah.
Shall we go over to grapes, which are right just behind you? If you simply turn around, we've got grapes. Sorry. Now, these grapes were a tangled, just mess. They hadn't been touched in probably 15 years. They were overgrown like this much. I mean, it's just solid grapes every place. They produced very, very well. I mean, the entire staff ate luxuriously through all summer and early fall. Grapes galore. Even Vincent loves grapes now. He figured out he can come and self-feed off the grapes. But they hadn't been maintained. And so the grapes were small. The clusters were small. I think if we prune them back, the grapes will be larger. I'll have less issues with disease. I had a few, some disease issues in here. Now I can open that up and I'll fertilize these real heavy here when I get all done. I am not done with this. I pruned them the day before I left on vacation and I just came back yesterday. So, but here's the basic lesson. I need to restring these cables. They'd collapsed under the weight of all of that structure, and it was a heavy harvest last year. Grapes do very well here, and they just kind of bent in, and so it needs some maintenance. So I'm going to pull these posts back, reset the cables, and here's where I think it gets quite confusing. We have too much agricultural information out there. We are not a vineyard. Mostly we're backyard gardeners. There's a lot more fudge factor. You don't have to read how the vineyards guys do it or how agriculture does it on 200 acres. I've got 2 plants. I can have beauty and a harvest too. I think we can have both in the backyard. So here what I've done, because I grow a lot of grapes, a lot of berries, blackberries do exceptionally well here. What I'll do is I'll string these cables up. There's 2 of them. I'll bring these up a little bit. I'll have it about hip high and about this high. If I've got a 6-foot fence at home, I've got 6-foot fences. I have it that high. So there's not a right or wrong. In your vineyard, you see they're all at this height. But I think I want it to the top of the fence and then going down the fence. It's okay to have the height depending on where you are. If you got a 5-foot chain link, have it at that. Train that vine, that cane, to go straight up to the top and then tee off. One in that direction, one in this direction. And then do the same thing down here because they're kind of ugly down here. I want it to be pretty. And so the vineyards don't have a double row, but I do at home. I'll go one here going down this way and I'll double tee my grapes. I have excellent production and I've got very pretty fence lines. So I think we can bend the rules some and we can have both in the backyard. I wouldn't do that if I was managing a whole vineyard and I had they're going after grape production, so many pounds per acre. It's very important, and it can be 5-10% production. It can be a difference between profit or not. We're not into profit in the backyard. We're into pleasant and sipping a glass of bottled wine I bought at Costco in my hot tub while I'm looking at my other grapes growing in the backyard. That's heaven. Okay, that you can have both. This last year I had so many grapes in the backyard. I brought my grandson over. They call him Garden Guy Jr. We go back and we just sat there till we were just full. We couldn't eat any more grapes off this vine that it came off of. But that's what I'm going to do with this. So these are not quite done. I simply went through and I butchered them really quick to get the bulk off before I left because I knew I had a garden class the day after I got back. I wouldn't have time. But you can feel free to come back over. Let's say you're coming in for the spring, come back. Feel free to walk across the street and see how we actually did train these. I went a little heavier than normal because they were so overgrown. I think I'm going to have to regrow my main trunks and retrain them to be pretty again and productive. So again, I can't make a mistake. Grapes, you can't kill a grape. So I'll just fertilize them. They'll grow like crazy. They grow like 12 feet a year. I mean, they grow from me to you in 1 year. So I'm just trying to clean up so I can train them later. Any questions on grapes?
Yeah, I have one of those. Actually, I have a couple arched things, and
Yeah.
they're metal. And my grapes look like that.
Yeah, big overgrown.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I wasn't quite sure. what to do with.
Do I cut it back to the main?
I would cut it
Because
back
it's
to that
not
main
pretty.
trunk, and I would just butcher it. You'll feel like the butcher. I mean, it just feels awful pruning grapes. It's almost, as a gardener, it doesn't feel right. But the grapes will appreciate it more if you cut them way back.
I know in Europe, when they're growing on the side of a house, I mean, they butcher them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they put on a house worth of growth every year. And so if they'll do better for you. Grapes produce fruit on new wood. So they need to be cut back to encourage the new growth. Now with grapes, it's just my take. Grapes are very easy to grow here. If you're going to try to grow grapes, and I encourage it, they tend to be a little heavier water user, and you need more fertilizer for them
When do you
than
fertilize
maybe you
them?
usually are used to. So I put my grapes on a drip system, and I treat them like my trees. They love a deep root structure. They have real deep roots, and so I I'll give them a lot of water, then I'll let them dry out. They seem to thrive on that. And then I fertilize them at least 4 times a year. And I'll use that all-purpose plant food. Again, it's organic, it's slow release, so it just gently breaks down over a very long period of time, about every couple of months. So I'll fertilize in March and hit them about every couple of months. So I fertilize my grapes a little more often than, let's say, my pine trees or my fruit trees even. I'll fertilize them a little more often.
How much
That
do
seems
you
to be
give
the
them?
difference.
How much do you give them?
Read the directions on the bag. I try to make it pretty easy, but a few handfuls. It'd be a few cups. Good question, though. Very good question. Yeah.
Is there a certain kind that grows better here?
Yeah, there are. So certain kind of grapes over others. If you buy them from Waters Garden Center, you'll get the right kinds. But there are some more summer varieties. In fact, they're coming out with more and more varieties because of this vineyard thing. You know that Americans now consume more wine than even the French do? That's a real statement. Hey, per capita, not more volume, just each individual sips more wine than a Frenchman does. So this is a trend that's growing, and we're trying to figure out how to grow them in more warmer climates. So the San Antonios, the Tucsons, the things that aren't traditionally grape growing country. We're trying to find varieties that will grow in the heat. Don't buy those varieties. We need a cold, hardy variety. But your Thompsons, Concords, your Merlots, Chardonnays, they all grow very well up here. You can do quite well with them. This is good grape growing country. Just go off to Granite Creek Vineyard in Chino Valley. If you've not been, you should go. It's a fun. If you've not been to Sedona, Page Springs, those areas, you have to go. You swear you're in Napa Valley. And I love Napa, biking around. I love taking a day, biking around Napa, sipping wine. It's just, and life is good. Other questions?
How old are these?
I don't have any idea. Probably a decade or two, I would imagine. They're quite old. By this trunk, this is probably maybe even pushing 20. I don't know, but at least 10 to 15 would be my guess. I absolutely do not know.
And what kind are these?
I have no idea. So I know I've got like 5 or 6 varieties. I haven't gone that far yet. So I can tell you I'll label them next summer when I actually can see what I have and I'll label each of the vines so I can actually answer those questions. Yeah.
Like when you do the basic trimming now, you have the little green shoots starting to come. What do you
Yes.
put from here to here to train this little fella to go up there?
Gotcha. So this one's not quite done. Probably, if I had my pruners, if I brought my pruners, I'm going to snip this one off. I'm going to snip this one off. I'm going to take this one and train it to be right here. I'm going to take green tie tape, just tie it onto here. I'll probably cut this off.
Just the branches?
I'll probably only have this branch and this branch. Everything else will be trimmed off.
Wow.
Then as it starts to grow, I'll train that new vine to grow in this direction because I don't want it growing way out there. I'll have this one go here. This one I'll start to train. This, I don't know what to do with this. It's just a mess. They had more branches coming up here. I'll probably cut this out of here. I might take the whole thing out. I don't know. I'll make some judgment calls. I love a chain in my bumper. Just pulls them right out of the ground like that. So I just posted on our Facebook. If you're not Facebook, if you don't follow our Facebook, you should. It's a hoot. I had a pruning video of a guy in his ATV. He put a chain in the back. He's trying to pull a shrub, a little thing out with his ATV. he flipped the thing over backwards. So he's in what they call the razors, the ones that have the cab over, but he couldn't get out of the ground. Just those are the kinds of things that we post. Just fun, interesting things. Should we go to the front of the landscape here and show you some more perennial things? Yeah.
I have when I
Yeah.
bought the house.
Hold on, folks.
There were like 15
Juniper. Yeah.
And you want to prune some of the major branches. What do you have to do?
Oh, so
In the house or it's hanging down?
she has a very mature sycamore, a big guy. This is those big leaves on them. It's a big, great shade tree. But sycamores do appreciate pruning. So they like to be pruned. Otherwise, they tend to get real mangy, and they just need to be pruned. There, I would prune back. I'd be really aggressive with it, and I would do it now in the next couple months. Don't be afraid. Sometimes they want to sucker and come up. Apple trees will do this. Pears will do this. If it's coming up where you want it, great. Keep it and enjoy it. Fertilize it. Make it grow. If it's not, get rid of it. Chop it off. Don't be afraid to cut it back. This, I've not.
So the major branches?
It's okay to whack them right off.
And do you take it right to the trunk, or do you leave a little bit on, or can you cut it off?
We'll use this apple tree to show you that.
Okay,
Because that's a better example than this. This thing, I have not tackled this as such a project, and I can't quite see it. And emotionally, I just can't tackle it yet. But in February, I'll be ready to go. But it's just, everything's coming to the ground. I'll probably just trim it way up and try to open it up so I get more of a vase-shaped branch to it. Also, it's shading the grapes, which is not good. Grapes love full sunshine. So I might even take off some of the main branches coming off. I may actually really cut it back so that I can open up more sunlight for the grapes. Or I've got so many grapes here, I may just go, too many grapes, too much work. I'll rip the grapes out. I haven't made those decisions yet. So, and I may take a year or two to do that. I'll get a feel for it and go, no, it's just too much. Grapes are too aggressive now. I've got too many grapes, cut them back. Or I don't like this variety, they taste bad. If you're new to your house and it's let's say an older house and the landscape's not quite what you want, change it. We don't remodel the landscape as often as we landscape we remodel the kitchen or a bathroom. Landscapes need new, fresh plants in there. It quickly gets old and it starts to look like that or this. So we need to I think it's okay to rip some things out. In the back here, what I did, I can give you a good example back here with this tree. This had a big limb coming out sideways. I mean, this is a big limb. This thing was coming way out.
Oh, yeah.
And way too low. It's a head knocker. It was just a problem. And so I cut it all the way back to the trunk because I don't want it at all. Now you'll notice I left the crown right here. There's a collar on a branch. You don't cut it right back to the trunk. You usually leave it at an angle so you can see this collar right here. And you'll see it back here. It's at a slight angle. All trees are that way. So I cut it back here, and that way this collar will start to grow over this cut and will heal itself faster than if you'd cut it straight back right against the trunk. So that's going to be important for your sycamore, that technique. If you got major branches, look for that.
The big size.
Look for the collar around that branch and make that cut. The other thing to watch, if it's a really big branch, cut some of the weight off first. Don't make that cut all the way back here right off the bat. Whack it off back here to get rid of some of the branches, some of that weight, because sometimes you'll make the cut and it'll fall, it'll start to rip the bark out. So watch, now this is School of Hard Knocks stuff, but just kind of taking the weight off, it's easier for you. It's not going to come back and bite you in the shin as it falls to the ground. Just safer, and it's easier. And then let's say if I were taking this branch off, let's say I cut the weight off, okay, drop to the ground. Now all I have is a stub. I would make a cut right here first. I would cut about a third off up here, and the handout that I'm going to send you here in a few days will have all this. It'll show you how to do this. I would make a cut right here. And then I would make the cut here in case that branch starts to fall down. It won't rip the bark off. So I'm going to make that bark cut now. So as it drops, it doesn't do more damage that I really don't want. Again, that's just School of Hard Knocks. I've ripped off, I've peeled back that bark when I shouldn't have, and you can't recover from that. There's nothing you can do at that point. So anyway, okay, that help you?
Yes. Almost said one more question because it's running into the house. Can I cut a branch like you've done here, or should it always go back to here?
It depends. So her question is, how far back do I go? For my fruit trees, the sycamore, I would go all the way back to the terminal, to where it started from. I would cut all the way back here. Hedges, though, I don't do that. I'm just shaping them, and it's less important. Your junipers, less important, because it's going to start to grow back from that cut. But here it starts to look funky. You start to have all these little, starts to look too many branches coming out of one cut. So, and wherever you make a cut, especially fruit trees, sycamores, you don't get just one bud coming out, you'll get multiples coming out. The other thing to watch, and I don't know if we're quite ready, this branch, let's see if we got any terminal, you'll see buds. See this bud right here? So here, if I were going to cut back, let's say I want to shape it and force it to grow where I want it to grow. Right now it's going to the ground. I would cut this back to right there, and now this bud is the one that will start growing in the direction I want. So you can control the direction you want this thing to grow in just by going back to a bud. Sometimes I'll go back further than I want to a bud that's going in the direction that I want it to go in. So don't be afraid to do that, and then you train it to go in that direction. So go back to that bud, and the handout I'll give you will have how to make that cut and where to go to. It'll give you actual examples, sketches on how to do that. I think it'll be helpful for you. So rows is very important. Go back to a bud that's going the direction that you want. Otherwise, you go back to a bud that's going to the inside, and all of a sudden it's going in the opposite direction that you want. So train these plants. They want to be pruned. They like it. They'll be more beautiful and healthier if you train it to do that. That makes sense? Kind of really technical. We're really technical now. You're full of questions this morning. Yeah, go ahead.
With a big cut, even though it's winter, should you paint it?
So her question is, with a big cut, should she paint it with that black pruning paint? If in doubt,
It's tricky, isn't it?
I would not. Myself, I would not, because it's ugly. I just don't like the paint. If it starts to bleed at all or ooze any amount of sap, I would. Because a big cut is waiting for disease to come in, a woodpecker to come up, and it's lighted on some fungus or there's all slime flux, there's all kinds of stuff out there that can get into that wound, and then it starts to eat the sugars in that cut and starts to get into the tree. And or bugs, they really like to see that open sap. They'll be attracted to the sugars coming out of the tree. There I would paint it. Maples I might paint. Fruit trees I might paint because they're a little more prone to weeping. Pine trees, they're the worst. They're such crybabies. One little cut, they start flowing out sap. There I might seal that up, but mostly I don't because it's an extra step. I'm the shortcut king. I do not want any more work than I have to. I want to get in and get out in a day or less.
There you go.
So he's got an alligator juniper that is massive. It's blocking his view from the deck. He's going, how far can I cut it back? Without cutting it down, yeah. I would limb that thing up till it was just up till I could see through the structure. Because an alligator juniper, it's majestic, I mean, it's beautiful. It's like a piece of art. When you get it pruned up, the craggly bark to it and the way the branches come out, it can be beautiful. That's why I pruned mine way up, and I have a light at the bottom that just shines up and shows off the thing even at night. Everyone comments on it.
I probably want to do it now before the
Yeah, you want to do it now. And your other
yellow
question,
comes on.
way to do it, from the deck, have someone prune, cut this one or take a paint can or cut this limb off and cut it back to the main branch. That's the way to do that. Strategically, keep the main trunks, branches going, and then cut out the small stuff so you can see through it. If it's truly in the way, it's going to be sacrilege. It's your property.
yeah, but
Cut the thing down if you want it. It burns just as well. It heats. It's a good heat source. Paint another one over here. We sell them here at Waters Garden Center. So I like that. I got 2 kids to get through college. So if it's truly in the way and it's blocking your view of the Dells or Thumb Butte, or that is a more value to you, the vistas, than a tree. So trees are extremely valuable. So, but that's where a ponderosa might be better in that spot, because one trunk and all the growth is up there, than a juniper, Arizona cypress, some of those. The other one is grasses. We grow a lot of grasses here. I keep my grasses up until about this time. Every January we start to get snows. So this was magnificent until last week. The plumes were up, it's blowing the wind. They told me how good looking I was. I mean, it was beautiful. And then last week's snows, we just had so much snow, it fell over. That's my cue, time to cut this thing. This thing will be cut back just right down to the ground. When you're cutting down that low, be careful of these. Don't cut your irrigation heads off. I've done that before. So, but they're easy to put back on. But cut them as low as you can and just watch that. If you're doing a lot of pruning, it's an older property and you haven't done it in a while, or it's just new to you and you're starting to really cut back, you might want to pop that irrigation back on in March or so, whenever you're going to activate. Make sure you walk the lines and make sure, because guaranteed you'll cut a line off or something will happen, especially if you get a lot of perennials here. This is a autumn sage, or Salvia gregii. This one I have made a couple mistakes over the years with. This has all those red flowers on it. It's covered in red flowers. Hummingbirds just love it. This one I wait to prune on. This one plant is a summer bloomer. The book says cut it back right now. I personally keep as much foliage, I treat it like a rose. I want as much foliage mass on it because it's a borderline plant. It's a zone 7. We're a zone 6 to 7 kind of environment. Yeah, I've cut that back way back too early, and a harsh cold winter came and a storm and it killed it. So just a school of hard knocks, a mistake I made. Now you folks in Prescott Valley and lower elevation, go for it. It's not a big deal. But if you're up in the Prescott area, it's 5,500 Prescott area where it's just a click colder, I would probably wait on that particular plant and prune it back in March. I'm going to prune my roses back. Okay. That's it.
Excuse me.
That's all I got for you.
As far as you're going to trim the
What's that?
a Russian sage.
Yeah.
Trim it way back.
Russian sage, how far do you prune it? You can't kill them. They tend to go way too big, so mine are up about this tall right now. I have not pruned them yet at home. Out in the front landscape, I have pruned them back, and I went right back to about knee-high and shaped them. Otherwise, that is a true weed. It can take over. It starts coming out. And I think Russian sage needs to be taken out every 7-8 years. I mean, just redone. Because it tends to sucker too much, gets too aggressive. I think you just need to pop it out of the ground and start with a fresh one. I think we keep them in the ground too long. Butterfly bush, that's another one. Butterfly has that big, they also call it summer lilac. It's got a lilac kind of flower. Butterflies really like them. If it's a standard sized butterfly bush, it's way too big and way too aggressive. Don't read the book. Just cut on it. Just don't go by a third. Just whack it right back to. So I've got a standard, beautiful red butterfly bush in the backyard. It's about this tall right now. I'll cut it back way beyond the third. I'll go back to hip high and really trim on it. And I'll look for some big branches coming down the ground. I'll try to thin it. Keep it where it's young, vibrant, new canes coming up, because they get better flowers that way. So don't be afraid to cut butterfly bush. Oh, wait a minute, before you leave. You're welcome. Thank you.